All right, so welcome to Primal Cast. Today I have with me Justin Zottl. So Justin, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
For sure. So my name's Justin, obviously. I'm a competitive powerlifter out of Niagara Falls, training at a Just Be Strong gym. I've been competing now, I believe. I've been competing in powerlifting for 11 years, training for
Okay.
14 prior to that. Spent a long time kind of slowly progressing through the sport, slowly gaining size, slowly gaining knowledge throughout different coaching avenues, in different courses throughout. Um, Eventually, landing myself the title of the strongest skating powerlifter of all time in 2024 or three, whatever that was, and just been traveling the world competing ever since.
Yeah, you've been doing very well. What made you start doing this?
That's a good question. So you and I kind of come from similar backgrounds
We
in that
do.
regard, right? So
Mm.
coming from the cycling side of things, you know, had a really kind of rough final year. Thought I kind of landed myself on this really good developmental team, and it would just be something that kind of rotted me from the inside out and turned
Mm.
the sport that I really loved into something that I never wanted to do again, to the point where I haven't even been on a bike since that last year, which is now 16 years I haven't ridden a bicycle. And I just gained a lot of weight, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. I
Mm.
burnt out when cyclocross, like the second cyclocross race that year, I think was in September,
Yeah.
and I got off my bike halfway through and I never got on another bike.
Mm.
And I went from about, I think at that point in time, I was pretty heavy, to be honest, at that point in time for a cyclist. I think I was like 165, 170.
You're always on the
And
heavier side, though.
yeah, well, being a sprinter, you
Yeah.
kind of usually are.
Mm.
And then kind of going from that, I
Mm.
just kept eating and
Mm.
I wasn't training. And then, I was dating a girl, so we were going out all the time and
Mm.
whatever. And I went from that 165, 170 mark. And between that September and December 31st, I went from 160, 170 to 250 in
Jeez.
body weight. And I remember looking at myself in the mirror kind of like right before New Year's Eve and being like, well, you're not a cyclist. You're shit
Mm.
at school.
Yeah.
You work at Sears. Like, what are you?
Yeah, that's fair. Like, what the fuck?
And it was this huge loss in identity that just kind of plummeted
Mm.
me. So I started working out late at night actually when all kind of the shift workers in Guelph got out of work. And I was just started doing like the Jim Stepani shortcut to shred from bodybuilding.com. And I started working out and I really liked, kind of pushing the weight, how much it hurt. I mean, I think that's the thing with cyclists. We're kind of weird.
Yeah.
We like the pain, right?
Mhm.
And I just like getting stronger. And of course, as we all have that one guy, there was that one guy in the gym, he's repping what I thought at the time was a clean 405, just, humming weight and jeans and work boots and a wife beater. And I'm like, man, that guy's cool. So I'd like follow him around the gym and, I wanted to lift heavier and heavier weights. And then, one thing led to another, started getting back into shape because when weight comes on quickly, it'll generally go off quickly. Right. And so I was very fortunate that I didn't take a long time to shred it, got back down to about 220, then started playing football and rugby again. And then just one too many knocks on the head kind of derailed football and rugby and just really loved working out. So joined a gym in Guelph that's no longer, unfortunately. It was called Android Bodies. And quite quickly found a powerlifting meet. Showed up to the meet, did quite well, won my weight class. And I'm like, well, I like winning. This is nice. And I just kind of, the chase for bigger numbers started that day.
Yeah, I think it's like a lot of parallels to like kind of mine. It's like kind of the same. Like I think I ended cycling like a couple years before you too, right?
Uh, did you, were you around for Planet Energy?
Like I knew about it, but I wasn't around as a racer at that point.
So you were gone when they made the junior team.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah,
Oh,
so that was my last year. My
yeah.
last year was the first and I think only year that they
Mm.
did that developmental team.
Yeah. It was a good idea. It just didn't really gel.
The difficulty was is they had somebody who didn't know what they were doing as a cyclist
Mm.
running the team,
Yeah.
and it just created this scenario where he
Mm.
had a vision for how he thought it should go, but he didn't know anything
Yep.
versus what the athletes we were all actually capable of doing.
That does
Right.
happen.
Like I remember a number of times to be lined up for a flat stage race. And at the time I was coming off of winning I was 2 years off of winning the national championships for velodrome for
Good.
sprinting.
Yep.
And we'd be lining up for a sprint race. And okay, you're leading somebody out today.
Yeah. Doesn't make
Why
sense.
am I why am I leading anyone out? He can't even hold my wheel.
Yeah.
Right.
I blow them
And
off.
it happened a couple times where that's literally what happened. I would win the
Yeah.
race, but I was a lead out man, and I won the race from 300 meters.
Yeah.
And then you get in trouble, and you kind of have, your hormonal
Yeah.
teenager, right? And
Yeah. Because it's a whole team thing. There's a weird
yeah,
dynamic I find in it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it isn't dissimilar to powerlifting because
Hmm.
while in powerlifting it's just kind of you, quote unquote, you in the bar,
Yes.
you do have a team of people behind you that are kind of unsung heroes.
Yeah.
Your training partners, your friends, your coaches, your supporting cast. They don't. I find they don't often get the credit that they deserve.
No.
Because any high lifter will tell you it's like it takes an army.
Yeah. You need a lot of people supporting you, even just like
Yeah,
helping you train, even just
yeah,
keeping you on track, right? It's
absolutely.
like a big thing. I think cycling, because I think it really helps. Like from my perspective, I found it just helped me dig.
Yeah,
Like especially for like squatting or even just like building up and pushing. Like it just helped me dig.
yeah. Well, it's a whole thing where like if I'm hurting,
Hmm.
you're hurting,
Yes,
and I like hurting.
you do.
So let's see how far we can push this, right?
Yes.
And it doesn't. I mean, listen, that's a really dumb strategy to employ. If any cyclists are listening, please don't listen to that strategy.
No,
But
don't follow it.
it's how we were back then. We were
Yeah,
just
don't
trying to
even
rip
follow
each other.
me.
Yeah, we were just trying to rip each other's legs off, and hopefully somebody was standing at the finish line that we liked. It didn't really matter who, just as long as everybody was hurt. And when you get into that mindset in powerlifting, it's like you get those sets. Where
Hmm.
I find right now there's a pretty big trend on people hiding from
Hmm.
suffering.
Yeah.
They're trying to do extremely nuanced movements that detach that role of like it. It's going to be hard,
Yep.
you know, and they're trying to get away from that difficulty. And instead of embracing it, they're running from it and then wondering why they're not seeing progression.
Hmm. So what do you mean by like the nuances of it? You're talking more like the RP, like really regulated training, or are you
I wouldn't even say RP because I do think RP is something that you need to definitely roll with because not every day it's just going to be kind of set in
yeah.
stone. Now, if you have a coach that's program you week by week, you
Hmm.
can get away from RP that way because you kind of know where
Yeah.
we're at.
You see
But
like
in terms of like accessories, I mean, it's just like rather than just kind of like a Bulgarian split squat with offloaded hands at a tempo. It's like, yeah, for sure. There's definitely really good things about that.
yes.
But for the majority of people, they might be better suited to sticking in some sort of quad extension machine and just go until they shit a spleen, right? Like
Yep.
there is definitely a time and place for the nuance, but when that's all you're doing, when there's
Hmm.
these very hyper specific accessories and you're hiding from just suffering, that's a problem. You need both,
Yeah.
right? And we
I
and I
agree.
feel I
Hmm.
feel in most common programming we've gone so far away from it.
Yeah.
Like you'll see powerlifters and they'll just walk right by the leg press.
Hmm. That's a great
And it's
machine.
right. And it's like, when was
Yeah.
the last time you were in it? Oh, I've never been in it.
Yeah. They just never been, or they've never even done an accessory. And if
Yeah,
they have,
or
they've never done it to failure.
yeah, or
Yeah.
the funnier one, right, is like and listen, I tell my clients, don't ever look on the internet. Don't don't look what
Fair.
other people are doing because that's going to rob your joy because you're going to see somebody doing more than you, right? Like even myself, like when I log on the internet, if I'm on my Instagram feed, I think I'm the weakest dude in the world because there's so many dudes just better than me at everything I do. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I feel you.
And but now what I'm doing now is now I'm looking at it and I'm saying, okay, you're doing this weight by this sets by this reps. Why are we close? I need to go harder, right? And same thing on the machines, right? Like you'll see somebody walk by that leg press, or they'll go on the leg press, put two plates on, be like, "Yep, that's my RPE 8," and walk away. And then you have a girl that's half their size hopping on the machine, loading five plates, doing double the reps, and okay, that's my 7, and walking away. It's
Yeah.
like we need to get comfortable with the fact that what we're trying to do is extremely uncomfortable,
Yeah.
right? You don't just get the glory of getting that big, third rep squat or whatever it is, your PR without the work,
No.
and
Very
that's
indicative of
that's a
like
big thing because once your beginner gains are gone out the window,
mhm.
there's only one thing that's going to get you more, and it's suffering, unfortunately.
Yeah, suffering and effort.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know like when it first was explained to me, like I don't know if you remember who Derek Tiller was.
Yep.
So he first explained it because he was helping me when I started.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, so basically what you need to do in powerlifting is you need to basically just do the opposite of what your body wants to do.
Yeah.
He's like, all your processes are telling you to shut off.
Yep.
You get under the heavy ass weight, like the weights that you put up.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, right? I mean, it's silly to draw a comparison to it, but I remember growing up, I grew up in a very small town. We didn't really have to. We had like six channels. But when
Hmm.
I came home from school, my mom was always watching Oprah, right? And before Dr. Oz was a big guy, he was a guest on her show. And I remember they were talking about, it was diarrhea or something. He was like, you got to thank your body for that because that's your body literally getting rid of your body's doing what it's supposed to do. Something in there shouldn't be there. It's getting it out. And I took that immediately to training because I'm like when we would go mountain biking, right? We'd be like ripping down, Bone Shaker, right, at Harwood Hills. My brain is telling me, don't do this.
Like hit the fucking brakes right now.
Get off your bike and walk,
Yeah.
right? And we
Especially
can
when it's
either
raining.
approach that. We can either approach that as like, okay, like maybe I should be safe here, or like, hey, my brain's doing its job. How do I talk myself into being comfortable doing this? Right. And
Hmm.
in powerlifting, that's very simple, right? Like you'll have clients, and I'm sure you've had this where,
Yes.
1 week they do this weight, and they
The
blow
next,
it up for a double.
yep. The next week they
Uh,
can't even.
Yeah, next week they're like, oh my God, you put 20 pounds on the bar and took a rep away. How am I possibly going to do this? It's like, okay, that's fair. Like I'm
Yeah.
going to accept that. That's your brain doing its job. So we know your brain works. That's awesome, right?
Yeah.
But let's go back and look at how it moved last week, right? Can we logically draw the line from last week to this week and understand that we're capable of doing this? Yes. Okay, great. So that's out of the question. We know we can do it. We don't have to worry about if we can. We know we can, right? But what do we have to do to be successful, right? In cycling, what line am I going to take through this obstacle? In powerlifting, what are the cues I have to follow to be successful? But people get too crazy about thinking about the end result of, oh, I'm standing up with my squat and I'm successful,
Yep.
rather than the 5 seconds before.
Hmm. Yeah. So do you see like a lot of people like because they see you and how strong you are, right? Do you see
Yeah.
a lot of people are like, I want that, but then like they don't really know what it takes to get that?
No, and it's you'll get on, I mean, I'm sure you've had this too. You get on, a call with a prospecting client, and they're like, well, I want to be a world record holder,
Yeah.
right? And they're expecting me to laugh at them, not
Yeah.
understanding that's the very same thing I said 14 years ago.
Yeah.
Remember the first time I squatted 500 pounds, I'm like, I'm going to squat 1,000 pounds one day. People laughed at me, and I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, let's make this my personality. Uh,
Fair. Yeah.
you know, but it's like, okay, well, that's fair. Do you understand what it's going to take? Yeah, yeah, it's going to be a lot of hard work. No, that's not it at all. The
Yeah.
hard work's a given. That's going to be whether you're doing your job,
It is. Yeah.
parenting, relationship. It doesn't matter. Hard work's going to be there.
Yep.
It's the when you wake up in the morning and you can barely walk because you fried yourself yesterday doing squats or whatever it is, right?
Bench.
And then you have to roll over and bench today,
Yep.
right? Are you willing to do the prehab stuff to get yourself in position? Are you willing to do the rehab stuff to get you healthy? Are you willing to eat the right thing? Are you willing to sacrifice 90% of your life for 10%?
Yeah.
And a lot of people aren't. Or if they are, it's very short lived. And it's understandable. This takes a
Yes.
very specific type of personality to do what we do. And
Mm.
there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's just a matter of, as coaches and as kind of people kind of carrying the torch in sport, we have to just continuously remind people like, listen, at the end of the day, this is going to suck.
Yep.
You're not going to enjoy a lot of this,
There's a lot of
you
fun in it,
know?
but there's also a lot of like hardship. Yeah.
Exactly, right? Like you're going to go through, like, I remember when I won Worlds in 2016. I started prep January 1st for it, and I competed in October.
Yeah. It's like an eight
I
month.
benched twice a week,
Yep.
trained my arse off for 30 weeks straight. I ate rice, ground beef, and salsa for 2 meals. Okay. So I can't eat rice anymore. And I gained 2 kilograms on my bench press.
Yeah.
And you have to be okay with that sometimes. And
Yep.
it's not because the programming was off. It's not because of anything.
Mm.
It's because we were so reliant on my squat carrying most of my total that I was putting myself in a position that was just frying my biceps for bench.
Yep.
Like I would just be shaking the whole way down, just in agony, and then pressing up and crying after the set, being like, "What am I doing?"
Yeah.
Right? Now, obviously, over the years, I've learned how to stretch and be a
Yeah.
little more mobile, so it's not as bad as it used to be, but it's going to be painful, right? And we have to. The biggest thing with me with my clients, and I do sometimes I'll have spot calls with clients, and I'll call up and I'll say, "John, who are you?"
Yeah.
And if the first word out of your mouth is a powerlifter, I just hang up.
Yeah.
That's a failed call for me as a coach, because the only way that people are going to actually truly progress in the sport is if they have their home base covered, right? Like if you know who
Fundamentally.
you are as a person, like what you do cannot be who you are.
No,
Or
it's
in
not
terms of
who you are.
like, what are you? I'm an NASCAR driver. That doesn't tell me anything about you. Are you an aggressive person? Are you lackadaisical? What are you? Right. And so I make sure that my clients that they have a very firm understanding and grasp of who they are as people. Having an identity in the sport is very dangerous. I think we've seen that enough between the two
Yeah.
of us
We have big time. We've seen some.
without even naming names. I think we
Oh,
both have two people that kind of at the forefront of our head where it's like,
yes.
hey, like that was all they had,
And that was not good.
and then it was gone.
Yes.
And now where are they, right? So having that perspective of like this is going to be really difficult, right? It's something you can do to accompany your life. It's something that's going to give you an allotment of control, right? Where you can control some of these aspects, which you don't really have much control in this world, right? Well,
Yeah.
I'm a really good banker. Well, the market crashed. You had nothing to do with that. You know what I mean? I'm a really good welder. Well, the work dried up.
Mm.
Okay. But in this, you do have some element of control, right? And I think a lot of people, that's why powerlifting was people gravitate towards it because it gives them that control. Like, hey, I couldn't do this today. If I train really hard, I can now.
Yeah.
I'm better than I was. And people like saying that, right?
Mhm.
So if you do this in conjunction with your life,
Yeah.
everything becomes a lot easier, right? Like I even think to abs this year, where I went in right after the Arnold squatting 1,000 pounds. I did that tune-up meet at Apex where I
You're
totaled
great.
2308 on like an
Yeah.
RP 8.5, maybe RP 9 day.
Mm.
Um, and I just burned myself out. And I show
Yeah.
up to Ireland and I go to start warming up, and I'm like, where the hell did my legs go? We forgot to pack my legs.
Yeah.
And and of course you're sitting there and you're like, hey, I was supposed to win. Like I was supposed to potentially set it, an all-time world record on total. Like I'm hundreds of pounds beneath it. I look foolish for even saying it. And then it kind of all of a sudden it clicks in your head. It's like, well, what really changes here in my life?
Nothing.
Still employed, wife still loves me, daughter still loves me, dogs are still at home waiting for me, right? And it
Mm.
gives you an element of grace where you're like, okay, well, let's actually look at this, tangibly. You know what I mean? I could sit there and say, I shit the bed. I could sit there and say, complete failure, wasted, 6 grand traveling there because I didn't win any money like I was supposed to, right? Because I thought I deserved it somehow.
Yeah.
Um, but I can also sit there and say, this is the strongest roster ever assembled on a powerlifting platform, and I got fourth on my worst day.
Yeah. That's huge.
This is the strongest roster ever assembled on a powerlifting platform, and I had the heaviest squat, only hitting my opener.
Yeah. Which is wild.
Right? Like we need to give ourselves perspective and allow ourselves that opportunity to show ourselves grace because a lot of people won't.
No.
Right? They do poor at a
Mm.
local event and then they beat themselves up for it for a long time.
Long, long time. Or they quit.
Exactly, right?
It was
And
like
I
the
think
junior and out, I call it.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of that too though is a lot of people have this like elevated like sense of importance for the sport in their life.
Yes.
And that's why I'm on people so much about like what's your identity?
Mm.
Right? Because this is like you need a decade to get really good at this.
Yeah, and I see like what I see with you is like you're kind of like piecing it together. It's like you need that sense of self.
Yeah,
If you have that strong sense of self, you're going to be able to like deal with the things as they come up and down. Because I know, like, even for me, like, I've torn my MCL twice.
yeah,
To come back from that twice. I'm still building up. I'm hopeful I'm going to get to the level I want to get to.
yeah,
But it's one of those things where it's like, it's going to take time. And even with my clients, I'm always like, you got to have this runway. Like,
yeah,
you can't expect it. Like, I'm like, oh, I want a total 2K. And I'm like, oh, it happened like last meet. I was like, it's going to happen last meet. And I'm like, no, it's not. And I'm like, okay, it's just going to take one or two more. And that's fine.
yeah.
And that's
Well,
kind of
I think a good way to temper people's kind of expectations as well is like usually the Wednesday before a competition, I'll get on a call with my powerlifting clients because we're setting numbers, right? And I have my idea of what they should have. Len has their idea of what they should have because we coach everybody together. And then I ask them, what do you think your third attempt should be? And
mm,
they don't understand. They're coming into, the Shark's tank basically.
yeah.
Because I'm gonna ask them why they think they deserve that number.
Mm,
Now, sometimes they're spot on with me. I still grill them. I still want, because in that moment, I can just prove it to themselves that they can do this. Once again, getting that mind and that logical basis where it's like, I can do this. The,
yep.
the data shows it, right?
Mm,
But sometimes you get people, and I know you've had this before, where you come into a meeting and they're like 30 kilos above what you thought and 40 kilos above what they hit in training. And you're like, why?
Yeah.
Well, because my buddy's doing this. Well, that doesn't, if Jesus Christ walks to the front door of your powerlifting meet, you're not going to lift anything more,
No.
let alone your buddy, you
Yeah.
know? So allowing people to kind of like, and of course, that's sometimes, the week of a meet, that can be a little bit disheartening for people,
Mm.
right? But you also show them the progress. So, like, hey, listen, you were here, you are now here, you could potentially be here,
Mm.
right? You just have to go on this weekend and do your job, right?
Yep.
And that's where you get those, those big, 100-pound, total PRs and all that
Mm.
sort of stuff, because that's a big thing, right? People, they just want it now.
Yes, they always want to know.
They think they deserve it now. Like I thought I deserved to win that abs meet, right?
Mm.
They think that they thought that well, but you didn't do it right, or maybe you didn't hit your accessories, or hey, maybe those are just really lofty goals right now. And those are awesome that you
Yeah.
have, but not for this one right now.
Yeah, maybe it's just
Right?
not going to fester in the way that you want it to.
No,
It's
absolutely
not
not.
going to peak right.
Yeah, and that's a hard thing too, right? Is people understanding the peak because you get a guy 3 weeks out, he has like three heavy squats left. He's like, well, I want to squat 700, and then he loads up 650 3 weeks out when you told him 620,
He fucked up the peak. Yeah.
and then he doesn't know why you're mad.
Yeah. Well, because
It's
it's
like, are you
going to mess
planning
it
on
all up.
squatting 750? No.
Yeah.
Then why on it? Like the program was set, we had it, we agreed on it. Why'd you go over? And I've been guilty of that. Listen, when I
Yep.
was younger, my old coach, what he used to do is he used to like, let's say he wanted me to like lift, um, like 675, he would write 650 because he knew I was just going to throw the 45 on. Like we would play this game of like him trying to figure out how my brain was going to work that day to
Yep.
load weight, right? And of course, that wasn't a fair thing to do. I was quite a young athlete. I wasn't very mature. And now it's like, I'm dealing with, kind of with my own training, kind of just like working myself on RP. And it's like some days it's like, hey, this is what it is today.
Yeah.
Like
You
it's
just
not
have to be able to
glamorous,
pick
but
it
I
up.
got my sets and my reps, and my last rep kind of felt like that eight I was looking for. It's not a lot of weight. Uh-oh. Well, hey, don't worry. Like I got the stimulus, carry on.
Yeah.
you
And
know,
also,
and, allowing yourself to be sometimes potentially outlifted by your training partners and go, hey, man, good for you.
yeah, but I think that's like something you have to learn. Like I call like kind of how I call it is like let my clients fail with guardrails.
Yeah,
I just on the meeting because like if I don't, it's like you don't really learn.
yeah,
And I think it's just like an experience thing. That's why you said like it takes like a decade to get good, right? Like
yeah.
it's literally gonna take a decade.
Well, you have to learn.
Yeah.
Like you have to feel a failure. You're gonna have to bomb out as much as it sucks.
Hmm.
That sucks. Bombing out sucks.
It does.
My recommendation: bomb out close to home. Don't do it in Miami. Because then you're
Oh,
sad in Miami. Like who the hell's sad in Miami, right?
some people, but
Uh, and like there are a lot of lessons that have to be learned. And I think the biggest one is kind of something we touched on earlier is like, and I think Stan Efferdin, kind of paraphrased a couple people when he said it, was just basically like, when all the easy gains are gone, the only thing you can do is train harder.
yeah.
And unfortunately, it's going to be harder than you've ever trained. And you're not going to believe it's possible. I'm personally going through the same thing right now. One of the biggest things I've changed up with this off season is the frequency and consistency of heavy weight in my off season. And I'm feeling pretty beat up. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna lie. Like I'm waking up, my hips feel tight, my back feels tight. I can't make fun of old people for walking funny anymore at the gym.
Yeah.
And it's just like, hey, it's time to get under the barbell again. Like
Yeah.
let's go and do it. But it's harder than I've ever trained. And I'm already seeing the results and I'm, you know, 19 weeks out or something crazy, and I'm like, holy cow, like this is the most weight I've ever handled for sets and reps, period, by a long shot.
Hmm.
And it hurts. Like I'm doing these camber barred box squats, and like I'm like standing off the box, and it's feeling like somebody's punching me right in the teeth every rep, and I'm just like, just deal with it, right? And then you go back and you look at the video, like, oh, they're actually moving pretty good. They just feel
You're like
awful.
shit.
Yeah, exactly, right. Or even like right now, I'm like my next meet is a power bar and sleeves out of a combo rack meet, right? So
Different thing.
getting used to not having my 55-pound bar when I'm squatting.
Yep. With the oscillator.
That's that's different, man.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how the IPF guys do it. I don't know why they would. That sucks. But it is what it is. and
Yeah, I do that.
I'm figuring out a way around it, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I'm making it work because I don't have a choice.
No, you just have to do it.
Exactly, right. And too many people think they have all these choices to once again, like we spoke about earlier, get
Yeah.
away from doing the hard stuff and instead try to find the easy option. Oh yeah, that'll do.
Hmm.
Well, no, it won't. Like if your coach wrote it, ask them why. If you really hate it, I'm sure there's another way to do it, but don't just skip it or half-ass it because it's hard,
Yeah, because that's what's actually going to make you better. I
right?
find in
Like you're,
powerlifting, especially like the challenging stuff, is what's actually really going to make you better.
yeah,
Like the shit you suck at. It's like if you suck at front squats, you should probably front squat.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the analogy I always use is like your squat, your bench, and your deadlift, that's your bank account.
Yep.
You check in, you look, you're like, oh, it's going good, or oh shit, I'm broke. Your 40 hours a week is your accessories.
Yep.
And your determination on how good you want your bank account to look is going to be very, very closely related to how hard you're working.
Yeah.
And people don't. They'll sit on like I see it all the time. People will sit on a cable or a machine pec fly,
Yeah.
pec deck, and they're just like,
They
set's
don't
done.
know. Yeah.
It's like, dude, like your face didn't even turn. Like there was no effort there, you know? Or I
Mm.
see them sit on the hamstring curl on their phone, just talking in the middle of set of 12. It's like that's not nearly hard enough of a stimulus to garner any results.
Especially in isolation movements.
Yeah, well, you're basically just checking your box and saying, I did it.
Yeah.
No, you didn't. Not at all. Like I remember because did you do the I think you did. Did you come with us to South Carolina?
When was this?
Like for March break for Team Ontario cycling?
Yes, I did a bunch of times.
Yeah, exactly, right? So I think about it, that was hell for me. That was utter hell for me because my ADHD, I couldn't ride inside. I couldn't look at the wall for 4 hours, right? I wouldn't even do it for half an hour. So as I played basketball and cross country skiing, right?
Yeah. Well, you
Plus
were
I'm a
like
bigger.
way out of shape at the beginning of the season.
Oh, dude, yeah, I used to love you guys who come in super in shape at the start of the year. I'm like, yeah, you guys have your fun. I'll be good at the end of the year. We'll meet up in the middle for some close ones and we'll call it fair. And I just remember being like a bigger dude and like I wasn't in cycling shape. By the end of the week, I felt better. But like the whole time, it was like, okay, I have a choice. I can ride with this group or I can ride with this group.
Yeah.
This group I'm going to be super duper comfortable in, right? This one is going to hurt
Hmm.
a lot.
Yeah.
But this is where I want to be. So it's like I would start out here, kind of get my legs underneath me for the first couple of days, and then I would slowly go here. And I
Mhm.
think my first year, I was like here for 2 days. I went over here and immediately came right back. And I didn't even look at the other group for the rest of the session.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I bonked like 2 hours and just got like dragged for the ride. But then you kind of get there and you realize, like, okay, like look at these guys, what they're doing. Look how hard, look how intentful they're training. It's not
Yep.
just about effort, it's about intent, right? It's not about intensity, it's about intent of your intensity. Look how hard they're riding, look when they're riding hard, look how they're doing it, and figure out a way to make yourself like that. And I see that so much in the gym where like people, even like with me, right? And it's a blessing, it's a curse, because like I feel super honored that people will watch me lift and they'll try to copy it.
Yes.
That's pretty cool,
It
right?
is cool.
Um, what I will say though is people don't understand what's going on between my ears when I'm losing it,
Yeah.
right? I am so loudly yelling my cues in my head. I am so intense with trying to be perfect that it comes out as blind rage.
Yeah.
And
And
you
I
see
think
these people just like
people think
shaking
it's
and losing their
rage.
mind. They're
Yeah.
losing their mind, and then they're like, "Oh, it all went to hell."
Because they're not focused.
Well, it didn't work, man. You
Yeah.
were you were every orifice in your body was leaking energy, and you show up to the barbell and you were spent.
Yeah.
You got to keep it in as best you can and then go. Like a perfect example, and I was very lucky that it didn't bite me in the ass, was in the animal cage this year, right?
Hmm.
My back was a little bit grenaded from being on concrete floors for the day before and the morning of coaching. And I even told Craig at one point, I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't feel good. My back feels like crap. Like, this is your show. Like, I'll pace you to 1,000, but I don't think I'm doing it, man. Right? And just before I think my first knee wrap squat at 900 pounds, Matt kind of just looked at me and he just kind of reminded me, he's like, listen, like, you feel like shit and that's fine. But like, you have a lesson to teach people. More importantly, you have a lesson to teach your daughter. You
Yep.
have to try.
Yep.
And it kind of got me a little bit fired up. Well, got me a lot fired up, right? I hit the rep. I still didn't
Yeah.
feel great, but I'm like, okay, whatever. went 936, blew it up. I'm like, okay, we're going for it. Well, what happened was instead of that, like, kind of steely eyed intensity look I had, Will grabs you by the shirt, the MC, and he's like, this one's for Ellie. And I screamed so fucking loud that I let all the air out of my system.
Oh shit.
I couldn't catch a brace after. So you'll see me get under the bar, and I'm like,
Yeah.
and I pop back on. I'm looking at my belt, like it's on the right spot, it's on the right notch.
But why?
I'm like,
Yeah.
I try to push into it, nothing happened. So like I cranked it on one tighter,
Yeah.
right? And in that moment, instead of focusing on doing the typical like expansion I do when I brace, I went in.
Ooh.
So you'll see when I unrack, I don't even lock my knees right away because my brace wasn't
You
set.
can't actually hold it. Yeah.
Exactly, right. And somehow just I think it's just because how well I how in shape I was at that point, I blew it up.
Yeah.
But I still came away from that like happy that I hit it, but I'd already hit it once in the gym,
Yeah.
right? But I wanted a double. And so I was happy. I squatted 1,000 on the heaviest squat. My friend Craig and I, we have the heaviest squat ever in the animal cage, which is super cool, right? Don't get me wrong. The animal cage, for those listeners who haven't been around, don't understand it. Animal was the only social media product we could really consume
For a long
consistently
time.
on YouTube growing up.
Yeah, for a long time.
The animal cage is the Super Bowl. I know now it's Sheffield and that's fair. I understand that, right? But the animal cage, in
Oh,
terms of
there.
like a raw lifting atmosphere, has and I think will continue to be the granddaddy of watching lifts because it's raw. You're there. You are within arm's reach of the lifter,
Hmm.
right? The lifters are made to be people, like they talk about our stories and who we
Yeah.
are, right? And it's right there. You can hear us. You can see us. Unfortunately, sometimes you can smell us.
Hmm.
And it creates that lifting atmosphere that I don't think will be replicated. And I think that might be the only reason that I got that rep out because I completely just lost my mind.
Yeah. And you just got fired up.
You'll see me. I opened my ammonia and I didn't even smell it. I put it back on and threw it and just yelled and went,
Fair.
right? And it was one of those moments where afterwards I was thinking to myself, kind of like later on that night, I'm like, you stupid idiot. Like, what did you do that for? And it's like we have to learn how to control ourselves because people are going to say things to us that might piss us off, that might get us fired up, that might just be like, what was that? Right.
Yeah.
And now you're out of it. You know what I
You have
mean?
to
Like,
almost just be like,
yeah, like I remember I was at a meet one time and I had a bunch of girls competing and it was a freaking awesome meet. They're having a bunch of fun. And
yeah.
all of a sudden somebody just yells femurs out.
Huh.
And I think like all of us just like looked like, what the?
What is that?
And we all like looked back and I'm like, I had to like refocus myself. Okay, get back into coaching mode, like get these girls back in. Because
Yeah.
they were all like, that's some of the dumbest thing like, don't worry about guys. That's a cue that works for that person. We can't judge. That is what that is. Maybe that works
Yeah.
for them. Let's think about our stuff, right? Come on, let's go back through. And we have to understand that like when we're training, right? Like how long have you been prepping for your next meet? I don't even know if you have one picked right now, but
Well, we have provincial, so it's 20.
okay.
Had the car accident, so
Yeah.
I've been rehabbing for 12 weeks. I'm good now. So
Yeah.
basically, I've been training since I got in the accident. So
And how long to your next one?
20.
So you're going to be prepping, and I hate when people say off season. Like it's always season, dude.
Yep.
Just because you're doing volume doesn't mean you're off. Like to me, off season is like whatever. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? For us, right? I can't be off in the off season.
Well, you just get so much weaker if you do.
Exactly, right? So you're
Back will
training
start backing.
32. You're training 32 weeks for your next meet.
Yeah.
You have to create some sort of bubble around your head that people can say whatever they want to, and it's not going to affect you on the day.
Yeah.
Right? Because, like I said, if you get too fired up, well, there's 32 weeks of training gone.
Gone. Yeah.
For what? Somebody says something
You
upset you,
didn't
or
discipline your mind.
exactly right. And
Yeah.
that's something that I've had to learn because it used to be that kind of blind rage. I think that's kind of where Full Throttle came from.
And I think that's what
Um,
people still think it is, but I don't know if that is the case anymore.
no, like it's more like you'll hear like there's a great video that my former coach Joe Sullivan posted at the American Pro.
Hmm.
I show up to that meet with a blown out L5.
Yeah, I
Um,
remember this one.
and like it was bad. And we thought it was far enough out that we could rehab it, and it was pigheaded, and I should have pulled out. But I'm a gamer and I like competing too much. And when you're prepping for a big stage, you don't
Mhm.
want to pull out.
No.
And we're kind of like getting ready for it. The way my warm-ups are is I'll do the lock base 5, which is phenomenal. I recommend a lot of people, if you sit down all day, do this, please. Did my lock base 5, did my step ups, did everything I could to get myself ready. And then my first squat on a warm up and peak is 484 pounds. My next one is 770, rate to 880, and then on the platform.
Mm.
Because for me, right, you have to remember, I have the same 30 minutes that somebody warming up for 400 pounds has. I
Oh,
can't do plate, 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 plate.
no.
First and foremost, I don't have enough time or energy. Secondly, other people need the mono. So I had to figure out a way to warm up quickly, right?
Yes.
And I've been doing this successfully, not an issue. And on the 770, I hit the hole and my back pops again, right in the same spot. And I failed.
Yes.
And I'm like, what do I do? You know? And in the past, it would have been, throw a temper tantrum,
Yep.
throw something at the first person I see, lose
Yep.
my mind, be an asshole to all my friends and family, and then complain that the ops are out for me. I don't know. And
Fair.
what I did in the moment, like, how do I get around this? Like, how can I fake this? Because my bench is still going. I want to get a bench PR today, and I don't really need that part of my back
For bench.
necessarily for that, right?
Yeah.
So went back down and I put my belt all the way low, basically right around the disc, and I just locked it one tighter than usual. I'm like, you are staying in position, screw you.
Yep.
And I hit it and I went through. And it was one of those times where it was like I was proud of myself for, even though like I was supposed to squat 1,000 pounds that
First
day.
two. Yeah. Yeah.
I barely hit my opener. Like I nearly failed what would have been my opener on my third attempt.
Yeah.
And so I hit that. I go through bench. I hit bench. I got small PR on bench, and all of a sudden I realized, holy crap! I only have to like get a very small deadlift PR to PR my total.
That's possible. Yeah.
I'll push from 2298 to 2303, and stop hearing the jokes from my buddies about not totaling 2,300 pounds. So I'm like, okay, let's see what we can do here. And then warm ups, like you can like, there's a couple of videos of me trying to reach the barbell to
You
deadlift.
couldn't get it. Yeah. I
I
remember this.
couldn't. I had to like go on my knees, put my hands on the bar, push the bar all the way to the front of the platform, then slowly inch my feet up, and then do like the strongman roll in and go up, right? Which I
Yeah.
hate that roll because I think it's too inconsistent. So I start warming up, and we're going, and everything's kind of cool. And in the PLU, sorry, they just created a rule where if you have one red light, coach can challenge it.
Yeah. Like in the IPF. Yeah.
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 So it was the first experience we had with this, and I just only squatted 915 pounds. I didn't squat the 1,000, so I didn't even think in my head I was anywhere near for the
Winning
win.
anything. Yeah.
Right? Like I'm like, oh, I'm trying to scrape together some sort of total here, like
You just want
And
to
all of a
build
sudden, this
total.
this coach that I respect and quite like challenged my shit, and I wasn't even gonna go for my third at this point. I'm like, I can't even like I'm like my left foot's been asleep for an hour. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm like, and we had to walk down these stairs down to
Oh,
the
I saw it.
blind.
I was
Every
watching it.
every step
Yeah.
you took, you're like, holy, like what the hell's going on with my back? You know what I mean? And I got really pissed. I'm like, this guy's
Yep.
like after I got bombed out in Miami. You know what I mean? I just had this prep that was incredible, and then I got hurt something very silly with something very silly, and now you're doing this to me. Like I thought we were good, and I didn't realize it was him and it was his client, myself, going for the win.
Yeah.
So I'm losing it in the back. Like I'm back to blind rage. And I'm like, I found like a metal I-beam, and I'm like, there's a video of me in the back just skull smashing this metal I-beam. And I walk around to the front, and you can even see me kind of like, all right, dude, chill. Just give yourself a second. I have my music on, and when I take my headphones off, I got my buddy Sam on one side, my very, very close friend Matt on the right side. He's my RMT, my handler. I haven't competed without him in 4 years now, I think. And I have my coach Joe beside me, and they're just reminding me like that example that I'm trying to set up, like leading from the front.
Mm.
Joe will say tip of the spear, right? Like I'm the
Yep.
first one into battle, and just like thinking about my clients that like had been through injuries and like pushed on, or like my wife whose back's blown up, but she's
Mm.
from her jiu-jitsu days, but she's still trying. I'm like, I got to do this.
Yeah.
And it's one of those moments where it was like, yes, did it perceive to be blind rage? Yes. Was it momentarily? Yes, but I had it shut off by the time it was ready to lift.
Mm.
right? You have to be able to kind of like I see like see through the fog.
Yes.
Like you got to find your target, right? And if your target's finishing the lift, you're probably going to miss. You have to think about the steps on getting there,
Yeah.
right? Like if you run up a staircase and you're looking at the top the whole time, you might trip,
Probably.
right? But if you can keep an eye on the steps all the way through, you should be okay. And that's kind of what I did in that lift. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to drop my hips a little bit lower than I want to. I'm gonna have to kind of try to squat this. It's gonna really hurt about halfway up. We know that. Just get it to lock out and hold it. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. I got about to my knee, and you can actually kind of see my back shake because my back went pop pop. And
Mm.
I just bit down. I'm like, oh, okay, we're here now. Just go, right? And I got it to lock out, got the lift, turned and looked at the coach and told him to suck it, and then took his client's money and went home. But the point of that is just like, listen, like you, like I said earlier, I appreciate people copying what I'm doing. I think it's super cool. It's humbling because I copied how Eric Lillybridge and Andre Milanichev and how Pete Rubish used to lift, right? Obviously, Pete
Yep.
Rubish. And to see people doing it now with me is really cool. But you have to ask the questions why, right?
Yep.
You can't just assume that it's something.
But
You know
also,
what I
I
mean?
guess certain people have a certain level of that they can go to, and certain people
Yes.
it doesn't work.
Yeah,
Especially
absolutely.
like younger lifters, I find, because they have to learn how to lift first before they can.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, or they completely forget every single cue you've taught them, and you're like, that
Those red.
doesn't look like a single lift we did all prep. Where what was that? You know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm even really guilty of that, and like Paul's kind of dialed that out of me a lot
Yeah,
over the last little bit. But like, yeah, I was very always very like, boom,
yeah.
it was either make it or I'm not making shit.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that's also like how I think that's, unfortunately a product of how we used to race though too.
Yeah,
It's like
especially
this
me.
attack's gonna work, or my legs are gonna be blown 40 feet off of the back of my bike that way. Like this is either
Yeah,
gonna be a really good thing or a really, really dumb thing.
yeah, and I think that carried over. And then in like for me, I found like because I did the tested side of like the CPF and stuff.
Yeah.
I remember there was no one really to compete against the junior, and I was like
No.
doing really well. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, well, and I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, just do what you're doing. I'm like, I don't know if this is right.
Well, and the funny thing is, we look back on it, and hey, you know what? Maybe in 14 years, lifters will look at the things that we were doing and be like, hey, that wasn't smart because the sport's evolving so much. You know what I
Yep,
mean? But when we were doing what we were doing back in the day, that was the right thing to do back then.
because we didn't know anything else.
It wasn't even that didn't know anything else. That and it's not because everybody was doing it. It's right, obviously, but everybody was doing the same stuff,
Yeah,
right? And we were
now that I
copying
think
them. We were
about it.
looking on the forums, right? We were reading the magazines. We were watching the YouTube videos when we
Videos
could get our hands on
especially,
them.
like Rubish and all those guys. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And it's like, hey, this works. I like being angry. I'm an angry kid.
Yeah. I think we both were.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd be angry too. We shaved our legs for freaking 10 years and wore
Yeah,
spandex. I think we have a right to be pissed off at a
that
certain
is
point,
fair. Yeah.
right?
And
But
like
no,
suffer.
yeah, absolutely, right. So it's a big shift right now. Like I often wonder out loud to like if we got rid of social media, what would happen to our sport?
There wouldn't be a thing.
I don't think so either. I think we would go right back to where we were 14 years ago.
Or it would be
Uh,
like when we like 2015
yeah,
style. Yeah.
yeah. I think that's what it goes back to. And it's unfortunate because people, it's like the post I posted the other day. It's like people would rather chase the image of success than actually chase the success.
Yeah, no, I actually agree because that makes a lot of sense. Because you'll see that a lot, I find, with the younger lifters, especially in like the junior and done.
Yeah,
Like not to
yeah,
criticize anyone, but it's also just like I get where it comes from, but it's also like one of those things where it's like, what if you just took a little bit more time?
yeah, absolutely. Or understood the process, right? Like you
Hmm.
can look through, anybody's open powerlifting that's been around for a bit. You know what I mean?
Like
Like
Matt, yourself.
I'll use myself as an example.
Yeah.
And my first meet isn't even on here. My first meet was 2014, right?
Ah,
And you look at where I started, and I'm not even talking about numbers, right? I'm talking about, sorry, I'm moving you around.
I think that's fine.
I'm talking about weight. I'm talking about time. I'm talking about body weight, right?
Yes.
My very first meet, I went 6, 345, and 6.
Yep.
Okay. Those were those, you remember those the white and red knee wraps from Pump House, or not
Yes.
Pump, from Popeye, so that you could buy.
Yeah, I
Those were
remember
the
those.
1.5 meter knee wraps, right?
Yeah.
Somebody lent me a leather belt because I showed up with the Popeye chic Velcro belt, you
Yeah, they're
know?
like, yeah, that's not gonna work.
Yeah, like that doesn't pass through. I'm like, why not? I bought the supplement store,
The
but I said it'd
belt.
be great for squatting. It's a belt. They're like, no, here, use this, give it back to us when you're done. I'm like, all right, great, thanks, right? And you look at it, and it's in you know whatever that is, 14. You know what?
Yeah.
That's 11 years now. I went from 1,550 pounds to 2,300.
Yeah.
That's not a lot of weight on each lift per year. When you look at the difference, divide it by 11 and then divide it by 3, 11 years, 3 lifts, that's maybe 20 pounds a year,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of people aren't willing to accept that. They want, like, oh, you see it all the time, just bench 400 and then somebody right underneath, road to 500.
Yeah.
You're like, no, road to 415.
Yeah. I mean, I've been very guilty of that when I've like even like up until like the last like couple of years, for
Yeah.
sure. Like
Well,
myself.
yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, even me, like you look at my first meet on record here. Remember, 6 months before I'd squatted 600 pounds. I opened at 600 pounds my next meet.
Yeah.
Went 630 and then went 660 and missed it. And it wasn't close. Like I had no right taking I remember that meet. I had no right taking that meet. That was a terrible meet for nationals. We had one monolith to warm up on, and I'm pretty sure it was like a 16-hour day in an art gallery. It was awful.
Yeah.
And even with look at my bench, what I mean? I benched 365. I opened at 370 and failed my next two.
Yeah.
Like we have to understand like this is a long-term process. This isn't something that's going to give you instant gratification.
Hmm.
The one thing that will give you gratification is your community, right?
Yeah.
How much you pour into others that are doing it with you. That's the one thing I've been very blessed on is being a part of some really, really great communities. First at Apex, and then now, well, not first at Apex, but in the recent years, for people
Yep.
who
Apex
are
and
listening will understand, being at Apex and then, now being at Just Be Strong, you look at the community of people that I've been surrounded with, and it's no wonder where you can see my leaps and bounds in my training,
yeah, the
with
support. Yeah.
exactly right, like that support and and
Mhm.
and having that perspective of being like, hey man, like like see all these people still love you.
Yeah.
Like you had a bad meet, so what?
Yeah.
So what? You went to a meet and you went 6 for 9. Who cares? Like, did you get better? Yes. Okay, then shut up. Like you did the job. Like just because it didn't
Yeah.
show up on paper doesn't mean that it was a waste of your time.
Yeah, like environment plays a big role. Like if you have a good community that's like not pushing you down, but also like not overhyping you, it's like especially at like the
Well,
weights.
that's the biggest issue is the overhyping.
Yes.
People refuse to be honest with each other.
Yeah.
And
Especially
then all of a sudden you have somebody who's been inflated by their own ego or their own community, and you have a coach or somebody, being reasonable with them, and all of a sudden they're haters and they don't believe it. So whoa, 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 whoa.
Oh yeah, I've seen that a lot.
Like, no, that's not what this is at all. I believe in you fully. It's why we're having this conversation,
Yeah.
right? But I'm not going to sit here and let you give yourself this pipe dream to watch you get disappointed next meet,
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
all but it's just like it's actually like that you care more.
Yeah.
That's how I
I'm
feel.
I'm willing to have that really rough conversation with you.
And you even be upset with me. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know you're going to be upset, but I have to do it because I care, right? We
Mm.
see it so often where you get these, sorry, juniors. I was there too once. You get these juniors coming up, and they're walking around, like King Kong ain't got nothing on them,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden one day they show up to opens and get absolutely smoked and disappear.
Yep.
It's like, what did you
The good
expect?
ones sometimes too.
Look at the monsters that are in open, and
Yeah.
go to their open powerlifting and look at their journey. Right, what was I? 1650 to 1700, big jump to 1845. That was an XPC meet. I squatted a mile high. It's the only meet that I'll ever admit that I actually squatted high to because it's the only one I did. We
Mhm.
had 3 meter knee wraps, and the monolift, you weren't, so it was on a monolith, but the monolith at the back of the platform, and I was walking out. I had an
Oh,
inch to
somehow
walk.
yeah.
I had an inch to walk out. If you watch the squat, my feet were narrower than my hips.
Because you had to like, yeah.
Yeah, I had 3 meter knee wraps on. So that was part of that big jump. You know what I mean? I competed a few months later and retake that total basically, right? But you're
Mhm.
gonna see small jump, big jump, small jump, big jump. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
that's what the story is going to be. But people just expect it to just be like, okay, so I did 400 here, and I'm going to do 420, then I'm going to do 440, then I'm going to do four, and by the end of the year, I'll be at 500 pounds.
Mm,
It's like maybe. I don't
maybe.
want to sit here and say, it's impossible. I've seen it, but
Yep.
that's
We've all
the
seen
that's
it.
the 1% of the 1%. And how arrogant are you to think that you're that 1%?
Yeah, I
You
think
know,
that's part of it. I
God,
think everyone thinks
God's gift to strength sports didn't end up in powerlifting. I'm sorry,
football. Yeah.
right? I'm not trying to be a jerk, but if football ceased to exist, all of our world records would be gone in a year and a half.
Yeah, because
Those
there's
those
guys
perfect
fighting in like the
those
finishing.
massive, and I will say specifically the 198s and the super heavyweights, those
Oh,
world
yeah.
records will be reorganized. Like those athletes are some of the most, I'm not going to say gifted, because I feel like when people talk about people being gifted, they remove any
Uh,
sense that they deserved it, like it was just
yeah,
given
they
to them,
think it's
like it
like
was easy,
you should just,
right?
yeah.
Exactly. But they are like, they come with some of the best genetics, you know what I mean? They
Yeah.
and then they add that with how hard they train,
Yeah,
right?
like
Like you look at those videos of James Harrison pushing that sled.
yeah, it's fun.
It's what how the hell are you doing that, right?
Even
Or you
like his
see the
bench press stuff was wild too.
yeah, or these high school kids, no belt,
Yeah.
naked knee on a power bar in some high school gym squatting 700 pounds at 16 years old.
In tennis
And you're
shoes.
like, pardon,
Gotta
pardon,
remember that too.
and think about all the other stuff he can do,
Yeah.
right? We're so one
Yeah.
dimensional
Yeah.
that that's all we can do. Like we try to go play baseball on the weekend, we tear our hamstring trying to run to first,
Yeah,
you
'cause,
know?
like when I was at Guelph, I did the university strength conditioning for a little bit there.
Yeah.
Even Guelph, like it's a Canadian football university team.
Yeah.
Quite a few linemen that could squat without a belt and running shoes, 675,
Yeah.
650, like
But they're
easy.
also able to clean and jerk.
Yep.
They can also run a sub 5 second 40. They
Yep.
can also jump like crazy. They can also remember their entire playbook, which
Yep. What if
God
he did
bless them
remember
because
his knee
that's a
pain?
job on its own. And
Yeah.
they do all these things, right?
Yeah.
So if you're looking at your perspective, kind of timeline, you got to be honest with yourself, and you also have to find people that are going to be honest with you,
Mm.
right? And sometimes those are the people that are going to hurt your feelings once in a
Oh
while.
yeah. Yeah.
Like I think of a very good friend of mine, the owner of Just Be Strong, John,
Oh yeah.
and he has been like my like if I'm like spiraling about something, or I want to lose it on the internet or whatnot, I'll usually message him first, or I'll go
Yeah.
find him and talk to him at the gym. And by the time I'm done talking, he's like, "Do you hear it?" And I'm like, "Yes, I hear it." And I just walk away.
You have a guy
You
like
know, and
that.
we all need that, because
Yeah.
you know what? At the end of the day, the sport matters to us.
It
And
does.
when we see what we think are injustices, or we see, the standards being cut, or we see whatever it might be, we're
Mm.
going to get upset because it matters,
Yeah.
right?
It's for us.
But does it matter enough to bring that stress into your life of getting into an internet war over something you can't control?
No, and it pulls you away from everything that's
Exactly. Then all of a sudden you're grumpy at home with your family, or your spouse, or your partner, or whatever it might be, or your
mm.
friends, and now you've created this kind of negative thing, right?
Yep.
Or you could just say, you know what, I can't really control it. I'm going to try to work and kind of eradicate this problem, right? It's what I did with the Canadian total record,
Mm.
right? You and I both grew up in a drug tested sport,
Yep.
where cheating was rampant. Luckily, I know that we both didn't fall into that category of being cheaters, but we knew people that were,
Yeah,
right?
it was a few.
And we would go and we would race. Like I remember thinking tour to Abitibi, and I remember coming out, like going into that race being like, hey, like
I'll do well.
nobody's touching my sprint.
Oh,
Like
yeah, until the fucking Europeans come.
I'm gonna lose. I'm gonna lose every hill stage. This is gonna be terrible. Okay.
Yeah.
But when it comes to sprinting, kiss the ring.
Yeah, you
And
weren't.
I go to launch my sprint, and this dude literally rode by me on his top tubes.
Yeah.
Like freaking
Older
Mr.
than
Bean, like Mr.
you.
Bean in that movie. He didn't even look at me.
Yeah.
And I'm full out just giving her, and my teammates behind her are yelling me to slow down because I'm ripping their legs off.
Yeah. In the junior
And I
years, and you're just done.
right? And then you hear a few months later, that they get popped. And it's like,
Oh, yeah,
well,
that guy did. I remember that.
yeah,
That was,
and it sucked because it's like I bombed out. I didn't bomb out, bomb out. I didn't finish within the time cut on one of the stages because that France team was just ripping everybody's legs apart, right? Now I could sit there and say to myself, well, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. My pro dreams are over. I suck, blah, 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 blah. Or I could sit there and say to myself, well, what's the learning opportunity in all this, right? Whether or not somebody else is on does not dictate how I'm going to do,
Yeah.
right? If I'm continuously getting better, that will catch up,
Eventually, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And people get so, and I think that's why I have such a good ability to just kind of like not care when people come out of the woodworks, right? Because I'm just going to keep getting better. You're going to come in and you're going to
Yep.
leave. That's what you're going to do. I've
Yep.
seen it a million times. I think about, Petr Petrus, right? He had the all-time world record total for a bit, right? I think of Larry Wheels. We've seen it time and time again. Odell Manuel, right? And these guys just like blow up out of nowhere and then disappear, right? And if you're this amateur lifter that sees this random guy show up to a meet and take a provincial record on you, so what?
Yeah.
Did you get better? Yes. Was it your goal to get the record? Yes. Well, guess what? You have to beat him to get the record now.
Yep.
Does it sting? Of course. I'm not saying it shouldn't hurt. It
It should.
matters. It's going to.
Yeah.
But it's not a crisis induced thing, right? And if all you have are people that are just going to yes menu the whole time,
Hmm.
you're in the wrong atmosphere.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot in some of the places I've been in.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, I would be the guy that would call people out, and they'd all be like, "Oh, fuck John" by the end of it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Hey."
And eventually,
They
right, what
learn.
happens? They come back.
Yeah, that's what
and
happened. And they all
and
learn.
they give you that kind of, I don't want to apologize because it's awkward and nobody likes to admit they're wrong, but I'm
They kind of look like
sorry.
this. Like,
Yeah, and it's like, hey man, listen, I get it. I was there too, and they expect
yeah.
us just to hate them forever. So I don't hate
Oh,
you. Like, I get it, man. I was there too, right? And I think about the, kind of, the state of powerlifting that it's been in the last little while, especially on the untested side. I mean, I think there's a lot of, I'm not going to say unfounded animosity. I think things have been said between the tested and the untested side. But the thing that
there's a lot.
I've always loved about the tested side, and the thing that people don't understand about me being an untested lifter, is I'm going to protect the tested side really hard, right? If I have
Yeah,
any clients that ever even dabbled, it's like, you're untested. I don't care,
fair.
right? We've seen it. We've had opportunities cut from us from people cheating.
Yeah,
I'm going to make sure that if you're representing my team, if you're representing my wife or in my last name, you're not going to be one of them, right?
fair.
And so when it came out that the total Canadian record was taken by somebody who did that, I made it a 3-year mission to take it back,
Fair.
and I chased it as hard as I could because I wanted to right that wrong,
Mm.
right? We have a really beautiful sport where we can have this fairness on either side of the coin and just be like, hey man, we're all doing the same shit. I think you guys are nuts for not doing it because there's an easier way to lift a bunch of weights. You think I'm crazy for putting stuff in my body, but we're all lifting really cool weights, and it's cool to see people progress. And people just won't let each other
Have fun.
succeed, yes, because they would rather pull somebody down and make an accusation than build themselves up.
So I think for me, it's very interesting because I've never been in an untested side.
Yeah,
I've competed in the federations that were not
yeah,
IPF before.
yeah,
So I've been around a lot of you guys.
yeah,
So I'm always like, oh, this is cool. Strong is strong. They're like,
yeah,
other people are like, why are you? And I'm like, because it's powerlifting and I like
yeah.
it and it's cool.
I'm doing the same 3 lifts that you are, and I'm
Mhm.
not coming to compete with you. I don't want
No,
to. Right?
no,
You guys have really cool stuff going. You genuinely do. You guys have done a great job with, Sheffield. Unfortunately, in my opinion, they need to rework how Sheffield is done because it's completely destroying worlds.
a lot
I
of
think
people
we,
think that.
I think we've seen that this weekend. You know what I
Right?
mean? But I think, you know, how are we going to sit there and cast a stone at an organization that's trying to push the sport into mainstream?
And it's
They're
become like very well established and like built out. Yeah.
exactly, and furthermore, I'm sorry, spoiler alert, powerlifting is boring.
For
It's
TV, yes.
incredibly boring to watch. All right.
TV,
If I
yes.
don't have athletes that are in a flight and they're benching and I don't have to warm anybody up, you might catch me sleeping.
Yeah, I've seen you.
All right. It's not because I'm trying to disrespect anybody, but if I hear bars loaded for 242 pounds one more time on a bench press, I'm going to scream. All right. Doesn't mean I don't think what you're doing is cool. It's just, it's repetitive. It's that repetitive thing. And that's a very difficult, if you think about that for somebody who's, career, life, wife, everything is based off of the sport, right? What about random dude flipping through the TV. Do you think he's going to care?
So how would you even like make it TV centric? That's always what I've kind of like. I don't
So
because you'd have to like get rid of you have to be less lifters competing.
So absolutely. So the really cool opportunity I had, was going competing with Abs this year.
Mhm.
Now, Jay and his whole team have looked at powerlifting and been like, it's a bit boring.
Yep.
Which we can agree on, right? Having like, let's say you have 12 dudes in a flight or 12 girls in a flight,
Or
that's
15. It
36.
takes
That's
forever.
36. Start, press, rack, wait for them to load it. Just hold, just talk them on yourself 1 second.
Yep.
Bars loaded. Okay, bars loaded. And then you have the person putting their wrist wraps on, walking up.
And the commentator
Boom.
has to fill the gap by talking forever.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And they're talking about random shit that nobody cares about, right?
Yep.
So the thing that Abs has done, and I think that we've seen sparkles of this. I think Ryan Lapidat does a good job of this because he is involved with a lot of lifters. When Garrett Fear was doing commentary with Johnny Kaufman at the American Pro 2 on the Prime flight for the Wrap Day specifically, if you go back and watch that third round attempted deadlifts, they were in it, right? I think what Abs is doing is going to be the way forward on the untested side, obviously. Um, in terms of they're making the meat fast.
Yes.
We were done in 3.5 hours
That's fast
for
for
meat.
attempted meet.
We squatted and then rolled over and benched and
Yep.
then stood up and deadlift, and we had no time. But the way you make something interesting isn't necessarily about what they're watching. It's about what they know, right? So if I just tune into a local live stream, and no disrespect to anybody whatsoever doing this, because in terms of local live streaming, the financial reward isn't there
Not
to
really.
to make it worthwhile.
No, not really.
If I was going to run a big meet, which you and I are going to talk about off camera later,
Yep.
I'm going to be paying my commentators,
Yep.
but they're only going to be doing one flight.
That's because honestly, I've done a whole day, and bro,
Yeah,
I'm dead by the end of it. I
it's
can't.
not about it's not about you being dead. Sorry, I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's about your ability to know the lifter,
Oh, that too. Yeah,
right?
it's hard
You need to be able to tell me a story.
about them. Yes.
The only way you're going to have people who don't know what powerlifting is, or even let's say fighting,
Yep.
or let's say soccer, the
Yep.
only way you're going to have somebody who's uninterested in it to sit down and watch it is for you to tell a story as
Yeah.
a commentator,
Basics of
right?
content, anything.
Or for the meet to build up some sort of battle,
Hype and like story with.
right?
Yeah.
So you look at Abs, and we have to understand who Jay is, the guy who runs it, right? Jay is an incredibly successful powerlifting coach. He ran the Irish PF. Okay, he saw the inner workings of how a high-end organization works. Right, he wasn't 100% satisfied with it, so he decided to go on his own.
Mhm.
Right. We also have to understand this is a corner man for UFC fighters.
Ah, so he knows all about the promotion side of fighting.
Abs runs a fight night where instead of fighting, we have powerlifting.
That's how it should be. That's always what I thought.
And it's you look at it and you're thinking about the layout of the gym, and I even remember showing up to the gym, and it's gone now, unfortunately. So that was a really big part of the Dublin powerlifting scene, was this one
Yeah.
rundown warehouse in the middle of an industrial complex. But I remember pulling up to it and being kind of to myself like, I flew how far to come to this?
Like, what is this? Yeah.
What the fuck is this? I'm like, I just spent 2 grand on plane tickets for my wife and I to lift in. There's broken fucking windows, right? And you walk inside and you're like, this is freezing cold in here. Like it's drafty. Like I'm like, listen, my boys get after me. I'm a princess. Okay, I need things just right for Justin. All right. This was not just right. Okay. And I'm like, literally at one point, blanket over top of me in the office, wearing a full hood, like sweatsuit with a heater on me, just like trying to sleep because I need to get over this, right? But then you see them turn it on.
Yep.
You see the curtains come out. You see the risers come out. You see the chairs, not the chairs, the bar stools and round tables come out. You see the media box. And then you have people asking you questions like, hey, this, like, and not like, what inspires you to lift? Nobody gives a
Like real
fuck what
good questions.
inspires you to
Yeah.
lift. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
they're making battles, and then we go into the situation where we have our ceremonial weigh-ins,
Yeah.
right? We go up and we face up against people that we're going to be directly
Like a
competing
UFC
against.
like match, yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's the unfortunate thing is a lot of the top powerlifters in the world, the secrets out, are good people.
Yes, we're
We
nice.
like each other, right?
Yes.
So you're asking me to talk shit about my friend, and I'm like, I don't want to be. I want him to do well. Like I was in a group chat the night before with a bunch of the top North American lifters, and I'm like, hey guys, listen, like for what it's worth, I want any one of us to win. I genuinely do. I think we've all done really cool things in our community, and I just want to let you know that I might be, losing my shit out there tomorrow, but like I'm cheering for you,
Yeah.
you know? And you see that time and time again. So we need to figure out ways to create stories. We need meat promoters to stop taking money from lifters and doing nothing with it.
Other than
We
like
need,
themselves. Yeah.
right? Because the thing is people look at running a powerlifting meet, it's like, hey, I'm gonna make 5 grand on the weekend.
It's like I'm gonna use it to support my gym so I can make some more money. Yeah.
Exactly, not understanding how nearsighted that is. So think about this for example, right? Let's say I go to you and I say, hey, John, I am running this powerlifting meet. Funny enough, this happened to me. I'll tell you about this off camera.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm running this powerlifting meet. We have sponsorship, blah, blah, blah. Would you like to give me $500 to sponsor my meet?
Mm.
Now, you might say, okay, you and I have a different view on sponsorship, though, from cycling. So don't ruin it yet.
Okay.
Okay. And then the meet's done, and you got one post. Your
Mm.
logo is this small
Mm.
beside 30 other logos on the back of a t-shirt, and you might have gotten a thank you somewhere,
Or a
maybe.
shout out on the stream somehow, some way. Yeah.
And then when next year comes around, I say, hey, John, you want to sponsor me again? You're going to say no, because people forget what sponsorship is. If you're a sponsored athlete, or you're asking for a company to be sponsored, or you're a meet director looking for sponsors, I'm not giving my money away for free. I'm paying you for advertising.
Yes, it's an advertisement. Yes.
So
Full
we
agreed on
need to
that.
figure out instead, and this is part of the, what kind of pushes it forward, because apps have figured this out. We need to figure out a way instead of asking for money from the lifters. How do we make this a non-pay to play sport? We need to keep these big sponsors coming back. So hey, Mr. ABC Corporation, thank you so much for your sponsorship last year. Last year on the live stream, we had 5,000 viewers. We ran an ad for your company 36 times. So there were 5,000 eyeballs that saw your ad 36 times in this general demographic. Well, now, okay, it makes sense for me to give you my money again
Yep.
because I have data.
Especially if
Whereas
it's
right,
based on the
whereas
demographic.
right now, you just see sponsorships just going everywhere.
And it's
And
usually
then
also like the same people within the community.
exactly right. And it's just they feel obligated to do it when it's like, no, 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 no. Like they need something back for their money,
They should.
right? And so what Abs has done is they've created this storyline. They've created a very, very cool production.
Mm.
Okay. A lot of people didn't agree with paying for the live stream.
But I think it's a necessary step.
Okay, but you pay $60 to watch a bodybuilding show in Toronto for a dude you're going to see for 3 seconds.
That's what I'm saying. Like I think it's a necessary. It's like even all fighting, it's all pay per
Yeah,
view. Yeah.
exactly. So you're complaining about paying $25 to watch the strongest roster ever assembled line up and go head to head.
If you're into powerlifting, then you want to watch, you should. Yeah.
$25 is less than you're going to spend at McDonald's for your pre-workout meal tomorrow.
Yeah. They're definitely gonna
Which is
spend that on knee sleeves.
exactly right. So people have this different. Well, it should be free because it's always been free, but the sport's always been small, and they're trying to make it
The
big.
sport is growing. We need to. It's gonna start costing.
Right? And that's why I won't knock Sheffield for
No.
for being formatted the way it is because they're trying something.
Yep.
If we continue to do the same thing over and over again, our sport's never going to grow. We have to try something new, and that might mean it might suck. It might be bad. It might not work at all. And hey, guess what? That's fine.
Yeah, and I feel like on a certain level, like on the grassroots level, it's gonna be hard to change like that.
Yeah.
But it's more like the higher level, I think, is where you can really
But even at that, think about this for an example, right? Let's just say let's make up a meet so we're not talking ill of anyone, okay? Let's say I have a meet and give me 60, I'll have 60 lifters if that's cool. All right. So I'm going to make myself a prime flight. I'm going to run that prime flight as its own session. but I'm going to give different things to that session. I might give a smoke screen, I might give lights, I might give third attempt walkouts, but we
I
might do
think so.
interviews as well, right? Like, hey, we got John Carden here. He's competing at our ABC meet on September 13th. I have a 30-second interview where I'm just going to hammer you with questions and we're going to post on Instagram. Just build some hype, right? Because then people are going to try to work towards being
They're
on
gonna
that
want to
prime
be in
flight
the
moving
prime
forward,
flights. Yeah.
right? So even though it's a local meet, even though maybe the prime flight, you and I might look at it and be like, there ain't nothing prime about that, right? We give people that moment in the sun.
Yeah, and everyone wants it. Yeah.
And that's what Abs is doing. So Abs has multiple divisions.
Hmm.
They posted it
I
today, and
saw
I'm
that.
I'm
I saw
not
the
going to
post.
paraphrase because I'm going to butcher it, but I think there's four divisions.
From what I saw in the
Division
post, it was four. I think it's four. Yeah.
Division two, Division one, Pro Am, and then what I do,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? So the really cool thing, man, and this honestly was the coolest shit the whole weekend. Yes, it was a last meet, so there's a little bit more emotion, and it was one of the integral members of the community pulling the final pull.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of emotion going into it. So take this with a grain of salt. But he pulled for 400 dots. They made a big deal out of making sure that every person who graduated from tier one to tier two got a plaque and made it a big deal that they graduated in the next tier. So
Okay.
even though you're powerlifting, like let's say you and I line up against each other, right? We might not be in the same tier.
We wouldn't be, but yeah.
But that doesn't matter though, because
No.
you're working your ass off. You deserve your flowers.
Yeah.
Sure, maybe you're not professional.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit? You're working hard. So if you're within your division, you can win your division. You're winning against other people who have the same set constraints that you do,
Hmm.
right? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's like in cycling, right? What do we have?
We had like
We
cadet,
had
expert, and all that stuff.
that expert, cadet, amateur. We had one, two, three, and four seniors. We had one, two, and three masters, right? We had ways, and nobody looked at the master threes and like, oh, those guys are just losers. Like that
Oh,
win doesn't
there's
count.
yeah.
Yeah, not a master one rider never walked over a master three rider and be like, your medal's fake. I won.
Also, people would be very mad.
Exactly, right? So if we can create these, um, divisions like what Abs is doing on the North American side of things, I think that's going to help the sport gain some traction because I think those people that are short-sighted and want those lofty goals will be able to grow within their divisions. And then that way, everybody who's just seeking the applause from everybody can kind of get it as they grow up,
And there's a
right?
path.
Exactly. It's a
Yeah.
pathway. The difficulty is the flip side of that coin is, as we spoke earlier, everybody just wants it right now. And
However, then they still get that ability, like you just said, to kind of have that.
the American Pro tried to do something similar last year, and it failed hard.
Do you think it's because people want to? Because I remember there was something like that back in the day with like CPF or something like that, and there would be like a tournament and there was like money, and I noticed people just didn't go if they weren't able to win.
Yeah, the second I signed up, everybody pulled out.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Yeah, we put up our own money to get people to compete, and nobody wanted to, and it sucked. And it was like, dude, like I could have blown my ass out on my squat. You could have won.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But like with the American Pro, they tried to do a main event, a preliminary card, and a warm up card or something. I forgot what it was called. Um, but or they did main event, main card, and preliminary card, and based on your dots is where you would align.
So kind
Now
of like
they
a
didn't,
fight.
yeah,
Yeah.
but they didn't do a great job of rolling it out. It was basically like if you get bumped off by somebody with a higher dot, we're not going to give you your money back. You can do another meet. So that pissed people off. They just said
Okay.
fuck
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But I will say, as a competitor, and you've done this, and I will continue to do this, we travel to get our ass kicked,
Yeah.
right? I don't want to win a local meet, right? I did Apex Legends, honestly, because I needed the money to pay for my hotel in Ireland.
Yeah. Yeah.
They gave me $1,600 to go and do an RP 9 day with my
Yeah.
friends.
Yeah.
I got to
Uh,
compete with my close friends and clients. Like, come
yeah.
on, of course I'm going to do that, right?
Yeah.
Um, I want to go to the biggest meets in the world. I want to get my ass kicked. I think people are scared to admit that, hey, maybe I'm not the best at something,
Hmm.
right? And I think we've seen that. We definitely seen that a lot,
Yeah.
or somebody has that reality check and all of a sudden they're mean to everybody. They don't talk to anybody. They just disappear.
Yeah. They're kind of like, oh, fuck this. Oh, this is hard or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
time to go do Hydrox.
Yeah. Or whatever it is, right? It's,
Whatever the newest fad is now, right?
yeah. Yeah.
But it is cool because I think you and I being I hate saying this because I don't want to admit that we're old, but we are now, aren't
We're
we?
getting there. We're getting there, dude.
Oh man, I'm watching my age just rise on open powerlifting
Yep.
right now, and it's hurting my face. Anyways, I think we can kind of sit here and say, listen, like we've been in this for over a decade now,
Yep.
right? We've been training for a lot longer than that, and
Yep.
we've seen the sport go from ACDC
Yep.
and high school gyms to some of the coolest venues in the world right now.
Yep.
And local meets, my wife and Len and one of my best friends, John, they ran a meet to Just Be Strong, and that meet was pumping. Like
Yep.
immediately 9 a.m., there was over 150 people in the audience, and
Hmm.
they just stayed all day. And we're starting to see cooler and cooler and cooler local events. But I think if we just, I mean, I know it's hard with the IPF because you guys have your kind of your
We have certain
traction in the
things that we
Article
have to like,
14,
yeah.
right? But if we can figure out a way to support the meet directors that are just genuinely just trying to pour back into the community,
Mhm.
I think we're going to continue to see positive things happen.
I think so.
It's the other side of, we can't always make that call.
No.
Sometimes we have to do a meet. We don't have a choice, right? Like
Yep.
I'll never, like if somebody asks, like, oh, should I compete, IPF or should I compete, on the other side? I'm a tested lifter. I say, well, listen, here's the deal, right? In my personal opinion, I think the untested meets are a lot more fun. The music's louder. Like if you come to our meets, the music's louder, the crowd's
Louder.
pumping, we're all cheering for each other. You won't
Yep.
have a voice tomorrow. I'm just telling you right now. You know what I mean? And you have this big sense of community, and because of that's fun for me. That's not fun for everybody. I'm not everybody, thank God. I don't think the world would work if I was, right?
Probably not.
But it's a little bit more fun, I think, and a little bit less intimidating for a newer lifter on that scene. I also understand the other side that might be way intimidating, having all these, big burly dudes running around,
Mhm.
listening to, death metal, you
Mhm.
know, with fire coming out of their eyes. That might be intimidating, but for me, it's not. So that's what I always recommend. I'm not going to sit there and knock somebody for their choice in federation. I'm not going to sit there and you know, belittle somebody because they decided like, hey, I want to go to this meet because this is what I want to do. Well, good for you, man. Like you're doing
Yeah.
something, you know. And we need to give people that grace and opportunity to kind of learn.
Yeah, and I mean, strong is strong in my opinion.
Yeah, so damn right it is.
Don't matter.
I mean, I look at Eric Willis. He comes out and competes at the amateur strongman shows.
Yep.
And he's just sitting there just slugging it with the with
Yep.
with 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 the big guys. I'm like, holy crap, that's super inspirational. That
Yeah.
guy's sitting there walking into the lion's den, being a tested lifter against untested guys and
Yep.
still kicking half their asses.
He did very well.
That's gangster, man.
Yeah.
Like he pulled on that. I forget what did he pull? He pulled 880.
No, because Liam beat him.
Yeah, but
This was 830, I think.
yeah, he pulled like 830 on the
Yeah.
on a very whippy elephant bar.
Oh wow.
And I'm like, that's super gangster, man. I'm like, you're nowhere near a meet right now, and you're
So he's
pulling
not.
830.
He has
I don't.
well, he's gearing up for Worlds, so he's actually pretty close.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
mean, pulling on that bar ain't gonna help you pull on a stiff bar. I'll tell you that much right now.
That might actually hinder you.
Exactly right. So I think certain things like that, seeing the crossover, letting people kind of venture out and realize, hey, the people on the other side aren't bad people.
No.
They're just different, and different's not always bad. Where I'm different, you're
Yep.
different,
We're
right?
both very different actually.
Right?
Yeah.
But we can respect what each other does,
Yep.
right? And we stay in our own lanes. We have fun in it, and you kind of
Yep.
give the head nod. And I see you doing big stuff in your training. I'll see
Yep.
the odd big squat set for him. And like, all right, he's coming back.
Yeah, I'm coming
And
back.
having that old rivalry from cycling. It's kind of like you stay the fuck away from me. All right,
Slowly coming back though.
you're always
Coming
you're
back.
you're always chasing back. I used to hate being a year one in categories because I meant you were year two, and I'm just like fuck. This is gonna hurt because the races when you weren't racing with us, it was always nice because I knew it
It was
wasn't gonna
easy.
hurt. It wasn't gonna hurt as bad. I
But when
kind
I
of do.
was there, it would hurt.
Yeah.
Especially because like I remember when Alex Catterford would be there,
Oh
because we
fuck,
didn't
I
like
hated
each
those.
other, we
Yeah.
would just gas each other.
And I'm sitting
I
in the
would
back
go, then
like,
he would go, then I would go, then he would go, and it would
and
just
I'm
be
sitting in the back. I'm like, can we all just get along, please? Like, can we just wait for a sprint? And you're all like, no, we're not letting you sprint. I'm like, oh, what am I doing here? You know what I mean? And yeah, man, I think we can always kind of watch over and look what each other are doing and say, hey, like that's super cool. As they say,
Yep.
in France, chapeau,
Yep.
hats off and respect. And I think we need to bring that back to the sport because at the end of the day, right? I'm
Mhm.
sorry to everyone. Maybe the new generation's a little bit different, but we all failed the sport we thought we were going to do, and that's how we ended up at powerlifting. So why are we
It's
gatekeep? Why are
never
we
been a
gate
sport.
exactly? So why are we gatekeeping and
Yep.
not letting
Good.
other people just go and have some fun?
We
You know
should.
what I mean? I'm watching Worlds right now, and you know what? Of course, I'm going to look at the
Oh,
weights and be like, I can use that for a set of 8. You know what I mean? But it's also a world record. That's the most anybody's ever done in that set of constraints. That's cool.
it is very cool.
You know, we caught a little bit. I think it was the 82s we watched yesterday. 83s, 83s, right for you
Yep.
guys?
Yep.
We
80.
watched the 83s, and it was cool as shit. I'm watching the squats, and I was like, I was doing camber bar squats, and I'm like, I'm not letting these freaking natty guys out squat. Man, I don't care if I'm on a camber bar. Screw you guys. You know what I mean? They
Let's get that
still
lumber
did
out.
because they're strong. You know what I mean? The one guy squatted like what was it, like 317, so almost 700 pounds. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm like, dude, that's I still remember my first 700-pound squat.
Yeah. And the margins are always very tight there too. Like
Yeah,
between like
absolutely.
a lot of the
And that's the thing you guys do way better than the untested side is the battles,
yep.
right?
Always
And
way
that's what
better.
abs is trying to do to us right now. They're like, listen, you're not going to hit your biggest total at this meet. I'm telling you right now. They tell you straight up. They're like, don't expect to hit, any sort of total at this meet.
Yeah.
You are going head to head with other people.
Mhm.
And the only way you're going to win is if you don't miss a lift.
We want to see you guys like push, but like don't be stupid. Yeah.
Exactly, right? And I kind of learned that the hard way. What was
Yep.
that? I went 1, 2, 3. Ooh, what was that bad of a
The
day?
5 for 9 or 4 for 9?
Four for nine. Oh my,
2, 3, 4.
ouch.
Oh man.
That's a lot. That's a lot of sucking.
Okay.
I get it.
Right. But it's like, I learned that. So next time I go in, it's like, okay, I got to take a little bit off the top. If
Yeah.
I think I'm going to do X, take, 5% off and
Mhm.
go through and be successful throughout the day.
Yeah.
But that's what's going to bring fans is
Mhm.
not having all this infighting, right, that we spoke about.
Mhm.
Not having all the infighting of, oh, you're over here, I'm over here, we don't like each other for
Whatever
whatever
reason.
dumb reason, right? Now, I will say, if somebody comes from here and goes to here, hate them, please, right? That's cheating, right? But we're over here, right? So let's
We're
get the
doing
head-to-head
things.
battles going,
Yeah.
right? You guys have them, at Sheffield. Although it is sometimes a little bit confusing as to,
The way it's set up is a little complicated. Yes.
yeah, especially when like what was it last year? Didn't one guy get pushed at Worlds to like go way harder than he needed to take the world record total from another guy, and the guy that he beat went a weight class down and just killed him at Sheffield because the
Yes.
percentages were so high,
Yep.
right?
Because it's all based on world record percentages, and you can go up and down in Sheffield. There's no actual weight class.
Yeah, so that's kind of shit. Like, I'm not gonna
Yep.
lie, that's kind of shit. Like that
You
kind
can
of
always
ruins
beat
it for
them on the
everybody.
guts by just going up and down and weight.
Yeah, exactly, right. So it's like for me, it's like I don't know. We got to figure out a way to level that out. I was talking to Ryan Lappy. I saw him a couple weeks ago at the gym, and he was kind of explaining how that's going to happen. Like, I guess you guys having two Sheffields
We're
this
gonna
year
have
or something.
lightweight and heavyweight now. Yeah.
Well, good because it should
Yeah.
be because the lightweight dots is not nice to fat guys. I'm
No.
sorry. Like when I look at the heaviest sort of all time being, on the end on the knee wraps being Dan Bell, and I look at his dots and he's like 63rd. I'm
Yeah.
like, that's the strongest dude to ever put a barbell on his back in terms of weight lifted.
Yep. Like actual overall total
What
mass.
why is he down there? you know, and that's just the way that it is. So they do need to separate, the lightweights and heavyweights. So it's great to hear they're doing that because that'll make it more fair for guys like Jesus and hopefully get a couple more big guys get their names out there,
Yes.
right?
And
Because when you think about big guys in powerlifting right now on the IPF side, it starts and ends with Jesus. Sorry to the other guys. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but that's
well,
where the light's been
even in
shown.
Canada, it's just Willis, really, and Trevor, and then it's like me and a bunch of other guys, but we're not
Yeah.
quite there.
But
It's
but you guys deserve your credit. You know what I mean?
yep.
Like you guys are incredibly strong athletes. What you're doing is incredibly inspirational, motivating.
Mhm.
Even as an untested guy who might be a couple of 100 pounds ahead of you guys on a few lifts, I'm still, trying to keep that barrier as close as I can.
Yeah.
Like Eric Willis has been a thorn in my fucking side for my entire career.
Yeah. He goes like
Like
21,
I'm
22. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's still out pulling me, which still pisses me off to this day.
I think he
You know
is.
what I mean? I'm pretty
That's
sure he
so
is.
fun.
He definitely is. I don't have a great deadlift. I deadlift what I have to deadlift. I don't.
I think you might be ahead of him in comp deadlift, actually.
I hope so. I really do. Barely.
Yeah.
I am at what? Now I did just bump it up, so I did go up to 848, which does put me to fifth with Cade Weber, which is cool because that's a guy that I grew up idolizing. But he's 10 pounds.
Yeah, it's not much.
Like it doesn't make sense. Like, and then you have guys like that, Mark Cardinal in 2019.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like that's kind of, it, you know. I'd like to see a couple guys who are drug tested over to the IPF and see what they could do, like a Darrell Pettis, like he's got an 884 pound deadlift,
Yep.
and it's conventional. I'd love to see what he could do on a power bar. You know what I mean? I'd love to see what he could do in those conditions because I think it might bring the best out in him because he's never really had necessarily
Heads.
competition
Yeah.
to
If he
push
came
him.
on our side, I think it would be pretty fun.
Exactly right. I think it would push him into a whole nother level. Now his total's not quite there. He's just about a 2,000 pound total now. Where Eric's a couple 100 pounds ahead of that, but it would push him, I think, to another level. Like when you have a battle like that, when you talk about growing the sport, it's going to be through
Making me
battles.
better already too, because I'm trying to chase these guys to get into the contention.
Exactly right. So it's going to be fun to see kind of what happens the next few years. Like I said, we're veterans now,
Yep.
whether we want to admit it or not. I don't want
No,
to yet. Um,
either.
but we are the ones who are kind of, and what you're doing with this podcast is great. The coaching content you put out, is awesome. I'm just starting to kind of get into that space of putting out content,
Well,
because it is, I don't know, like it is a risk when you're doing it. You know what I mean? Like the fear of looking dumb or saying the wrong thing or
well,
having somebody take what you say out of context is always there.
that's like basically what you all just talked about on everything else.
Yeah.
Same mental approach to
Yeah, exactly. Right. So that's where I'm like, I'll write something up now. Like
it.
I already have a post loaded that I wrote up. I showed to the boys today. They're like, yeah, makes sense. I'm like, okay, good, good.
It'll
Okay.
help someone.
I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy.
Even then,
It's,
like especially in Instagram of powerlifting, it's so quick hit. People disagree with everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Big
So
time.
you might as well just put out what you believe.
Yeah.
It will help somebody. That's how
Yeah.
I look at it. Because like I might explain it to you differently than you,
Yeah.
but then they might get it when you say it, or they might get it when
Yeah.
I say it, or they'll do like a combination.
Yeah, well, I think that's why our coaching operation works so well is because when I'm saying, because like I come from a natural athlete background, right? Like I'm not saying I'm natural. I'm saying I'm a natural athlete.
Grew up with an athlete, yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Whereas my wife didn't. You know what I mean? Like she came from extreme weight loss, right? So when you talk about how the body's going to move, I'm going to say something that's just easy for me to say, right, or easy for me to do. I might have a client just stare me in the face and be like, I have no idea what the hell you just said, right?
Probably.
Where Len, okay, oh, hold up, this is what he's trying to say, and they get it, right?
Let's
There's
like
so
let's
many,
bring it down to this. Yeah.
yeah, there's so many different ways. There's so many different ways to help people out, and I think as you grow up in the sport and you learn more and more, you eventually learn that you know nothing. Is I think what it comes down to, because I thought I knew everything when I was 24, man, and I won worlds. I'm like, I know everything. I'm the smartest guy in the world.
Well, I mean,
Listen
like
to me.
that's partly why I'm doing this for
Yeah,
like myself because like I'm like I want to go to IPF Worlds. I want to
yeah,
coach at the national team level. Okay, I need to start talking to the people out there like
yeah,
you because
yeah.
like there's a lot of stuff that like you can research, but like there's a lot of stuff that's like you gotta talk to the people.
Yeah. Or even like I always find like for me, like courses are always nice, but for me, like getting a coach who knows what they're doing,
Mhm. Just asking them shit.
that's way better than a course, in my opinion. Like that learned experience, you
Yep.
know, because I used to be very much like I don't care. Just it's voodoo witchcraft. Don't tell me why. I don't want to know. Don't tell me. Leave me alone. Just let me lift my weight and shut up. Right.
Yeah.
And as you get older, you're kind of like, why on earth did that work? That was dumb. Like, why did you know what I mean? And then you ask the question, you figure out, well, oh, okay, this is actually what it is. Like, I think of a perfect example is my squat. Like, if you go back and look to the second Ghost Clash where I squatted like 915 in training, I thought that was the greatest squat in the world that year. I thought that was the prettiest squat. I thought it was perfect form. I thought that was when my form was going to be forever. And now I look back on it, I'm like, oh my God, why was I
Like,
so
how did
lucky?
I get a squat like that? Yeah.
Like who let me go out of the house like that, and I'm sure it'll happen again in a couple of years where I'll look at what I'm doing now being like, really, really, dude, like,
I'll look at your first like thousand in competition, and then you'll do like your last one. You'll be like, well, that one looked like it was nothing, and that one,
yeah,
yeah.
exactly, right. So I think it's gonna be cool. Like I said, next for me up I have a reach rumble in October, taking a little bit of a long off season, and then there's a potential chance I show up to nationals to try to take out a world record for the squat
Might as
and
well.
sit and token my bench and my deadlift because I'm not peaking that twice in a
That's fine.
month.
It helps the sport though.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think what, growing up, I look at the guys. I look at Cade Weber. I look at Jeremy Hamilton. I look at Jay Nera. Even Jesse Snaden was around for a bit. And I think about those guys growing up, man, and I was so upset with them growing up. I think we might have even talked about this a couple times where it was like, where are you? Why aren't you at home? I want to see what you're doing. I want to be there. I want to watch you lift. I want to learn from you. I want to absorb everything you're doing. And they were all competing in the States.
Yeah, I've never saw Jeremy compete once.
No, and now you and I can sit there and think about the meets that we've done in the CPF
Yep.
and been like, yeah, probably wasn't safe for him to compete in Canada.
Well, we
You know,
both know that when we actually look back at the level
yeah.
that we're at, and I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't have wanted to be him in that warm-up room.
Yeah, but now I look at meet directors like Alen, like John, like Apex, who
Yeah.
like Dan at Torque Barbell, who are running meets that I could feel safe getting on the platform of.
Yeah.
So now I feel like I owe it, right? Because who am I to sit there and be upset that somebody didn't show up to my party,
Yep.
when I won't go party with other people,
Yeah.
So I think trying to go after that, that 970 pound squat at nationals this year in sleeves, if I'm still feeling fresh after Rumble, would be a good thing. Take a world record on home soil in front of
Yep.
the crowd, put my daughter in the front row, and
Mhm.
just watch the head bleed.
Well, I'll be there, so.
Yeah, it'd be fun. I'm sure you'll be doing commentary, and you'll probably bring up all the results when you kick my ass too at the same time.
Yeah, and the cycling stuff. Yeah. Yeah. We're gonna wrap it up, but
Yeah,
last funny question for
yeah.
you. So if I were to stay upright when we were racing back in the day, who was gonna win?
How long's the race?
Like an actual like road race.
Which course? Which course? Because if it's Effingham, not even a question.
Well,
I'd
anything
get.
that's
I'd be
not
walking up that. I think I walked up that hill a couple times.
anything that's not like a crip.
Oh fuck, probably you. Yeah, I was back then. Back then, for me, it was like I just liked suffering. So it was like when we got to crits, it's like I just attacked the whole fucking race and ripped everybody's legs off.
Yeah,
Like I
no.
remember, I remember the last crit I did remember when they used to do the crits at the CNE? They did the Criterium Championships at the
Yeah,
CNE.
that crit I dropped out of one time I did it.
Yeah, I love
I just
that thing
like
because
no
that was so for people who don't know what a criterium is, it's basically an hour of just
pull
being
out.
a masochist because what happens is it's a 1 kilometer circuit usually,
Usually.
very tight turns, probably about 60 people in it, and you'll do about 3 or 4 laps and they'll time you. And then what they'll do is they'll run the numbers and say you probably have about X amount of laps to hit an hour. The difficulty is being in an hour and seeing fans all the time. Everybody's attacking the whole time. And I loved it. I loved attacking. I liked being off the front. I wanted to have my nose in the pain, right?
Also because of all
And,
the corners, you had to almost be in the front.
oh, dude,
Or
I
you'd be
love
starting.
that crit. I
Yeah.
got robbed my last year. What happened was is I was holding a really good line on the inside and I was just giving it like I got this. Like this is mine. And then this guy who ended up taking the win, I'll say his name, screw him. His name is Christopher Pendergrass. He's a cheater. I'm kidding. He went right through. He went inside to outside and took out half the field.
Oh shit.
I believe I forget his name. I'll say his first name, Jason. What was his last name? He had an older brother. Um,
Fuck. Jason.
oh, come on, we know him too. This is bad. We raced with him for years. I believe he
Not
broke his.
Jason King. No,
No, no,
that
no,
was the
no, no,
Australian guy.
no. They ran. Didn't they ride for like? It was a green and red jersey half the time. They rode for Planet Energy the last year.
Well, there's Ben.
Yeah,
Who's the other? It's the other guy.
Ben didn't race for Planet Energy. He went to CHCH.
Yeah.
So, anyways, long
He's
story
in
short,
that
he
crew.
he broke his bike in half.
Yeah.
Like he should have been DQ'd, and everybody's, oh, Justin, go protest it. And I'm like, no, I'm not protesting it. He won. He put his hands across the line. He won the national championship. It is what it is, right?
Okay.
But I used to love those races because they hurt so much.
Yeah. They're just wild.
Yeah, whereas you were more like okay, I'm gonna make like for me it was like give me a two-handed claymore, I'm ending this now. You're like just sitting there poking people until they bleed out, and then like
Yeah, I like to.
you're halfway through your race and you're just like, who the fuck's pulling? Oh shit. All right, well, it's earlier in the season anyways. I'm done. I'm out. See you guys. I'm done the next time we get through feed. And I did that a number of times. I think Effingham, you rode me off the pack once. Um Calabogie, you did it to me.
Which is funny because it's flat.
Yeah, but there was no protection from the wind, so
That's true.
every turn I was
I
just
just
getting
shredded everybody off the
yeah,
back.
and like I said, you were always you had this really cool ability, like because as you know, my dad's still coaching, right? And
Hey,
he
your
was
dad, I remember him on my first race. He was even like, "Who is this kid?" Like it was
yeah,
a time trial. I rode like this shitty bike, and he's like,
yeah,
"How did you place third?" I'm like,
yeah,
"I don't know."
yeah. And I pedaled real fast, um, and but the thing you always had a really good ability to do was keep yourself in shape in the off season, and you weren't adverse to like the mental drainage of it just sucking,
Yep, I
right?
liked it. I had
Where
fun.
where for me, I'm just like
Yeah, like Rob would make me do 8 hour treadmill on like like
yeah,
roller
yeah,
rides,
yeah.
and I would just like watch a movie and just like have fun.
Yeah, see, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do
I
that
was
at
a
all.
psychopath back then.
We both were. We both had tendencies that were a little bit alarming and probably could end up us in jail one day, but I think powerlifting saved us from that.
Yeah, I think so because like I was in a bad place when I finished cycling too.
Yeah, the difficulty, honestly, and this sport can do it too,
Yes.
is it takes a mental toll of just continuously being ranked against others, and you get, and this is why I talked about so important about having an identity outside of being a powerlifter, is we weren't able to kind of take a step back and be like, hey, look, I'm a brother, I'm a son, I'm all these other things. I'm not, my worth isn't tied up in how I placed on Saturday at fucking Calabogie Peaks in the middle of
Yeah, I
freaking.
remember the coaching was a little sometimes very, and especially for me because I was trying to get in. Like I think I was like doing really well, and I was like gonna go to Worlds and stuff, and I kept getting
Yeah,
injured. But the
yeah.
pressure, like they were putting tons of pressure on me. I remember that.
Yeah, I even remember my dad's connections getting me into a couple of situations that I wasn't ready for. Like I remember going to junior nationals
Hmm.
as a first year and like lasting on the Peloton for like 4 kilometers on a 90-kilometer race and just riding back and be like, well, that sucked.
You're
Fly
like
back
on a
to
time limit.
Ontario.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this was awful. But like I said, we didn't have that perspective. And I think that's why it's important now as veterans to make sure that people understand that there's value to yourself outside of your athletic endeavor.
Yeah, you should have a life.
Yeah, get a fucking life.
Yeah, have just live.
Get a cute dog that you won't put on the damn podcast. Look at him.
Well, no, she's sleeping back
I
there.
know. Look at her. Get her on the. That's the podcast
There
guest you need to get on. That your viewers will blow up. But you just get her on here,
we go.
viewers will blow up. Do an AI thing. Get you talking through Luna. You'll be
That's
fine.
not my face.
Yeah,
All right.
buddy.
Well, this is awesome, Justin. Thank you for this. I think it's going to help a ton of people.
Hope
So I
so.
really appreciate you coming on. And yeah, you're going to see this in a couple weeks.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
Come in.